Okay. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for joining this masterclass on navigating legal DEI in the nonprofit world. And before we begin, I'd like to set the stage. Um, so for today's session, I'm taking as neutral a stance as humanly possible. My goal isn't to debate the politics or the philosophy behind these changes, but to help you as nonprofit HR professionals to understand how to operate in this new environment. The reality is that the rules are shifting quickly, and for those of us who work in nonprofits, our first responsibility, in my opinion, is to survive these changes so that we can continue to do the work that we do in our communities, the work that our communities depend on. And to me, that means keeping ourselves, our teams, and our organizations, assuming that we like them, safe from a legal, financial, and operational standpoint. To me, all that encompasses the work we do within HR and people. And so this session is about equipping you with knowledge and strategies to adapt while protecting your jobs, your people, and the missions that we serve. All right. So a bit about me and the perspective that I bring. My name is Jemar Ward, and I serve as the Chief People Officer for Public Health Solutions, say a nonprofit organization in New York City. I also do fractional CHR work and also executive and life coaching. Um, and in addition, a master instructor with Black in HR, where I get the chance to teach and share knowledge with you all as HR professionals across the various industries out there. Um, Over the years, I've had the privilege of working in a range of settings from local government, nonprofit, workforce development, and now leading people strategy at PHS. And so, with that, I think that means that I've seen firsthand how HR looks and feels across various organizational contexts. I understand both the opportunities and challenges that nonprofits face, but also private organizations and government. Um, and I think my expertise is really centered on three pillars: recruitment, HR strategy, um, and management. And so those areas are, I think, deeply connected with today's topic because the way we recruit and the strategies that we design and the policies we put in place um, kind of all have to shift. Um, all right. So again, uh, the goal was to give you some tools that you can use in your own organizations from someone who's had to navigate these kinds of complexities from different angles. And a little bit about Black in HR. Want to give them a shout out. And so, if you're unfamiliar, Black in HR is a professional networking and development community that connects HR leaders, practitioners, and business professionals across the country and around the world. Founded in 2017, and in less than a decade, has grown into a powerhouse with over 10,000 members spanning across all 50 states and several countries. And the mission is simple: to provide access, visibility, and opportunities for HR professionals of color. But what makes it really powerful is the support system. Members connect for jobs, coaching, courses, mixers, and events. And just like today, uh, they get to join master classes that are designed to help with practical tools to navigate the ever-changing HR landscape. And so for me, Black in HR is more than just a professional network, but a place where I get to teach, but also a place where I get to learn and stay sharp by being in community with so many talented professionals such as yourselves. Okay. So the reason we're here today is to as because the legal environment around diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI as we all affectionately know it, has shifted significantly. Recent federal actions have changed the rules, especially for organizations that work with federal contracts or grants. And for nonprofits, this means that we have to take a careful look at the initiatives we already have in place. Things like hiring practices, training programs, employee resource groups, communications. Um, it seems that the goal isn't to eliminate inclusion altogether, but to make sure that what we're doing is compliant, legally defensible, and consistent with mission. So in this session, we'll focus on practical steps you can take as HR leaders and how to assess your current practices, where the biggest risks are, and how to adjust without dismantling programs that are important to you and your staff and your culture and our culture. So hopefully by the end of this session, we'll think about risk management. The nonprofit world already operates under tight scrutiny, and these changes add another layer. And so our job is to understand the new framework and make sure organizations are both inclusive and compliant. Okay, so let's ground ourselves in what has actually changed and what hasn't. First, and this is going to be a little jargony, so bear with me, but Executive Order 11246, which required affirmative action plans for women and minorities in federal contracts, has been revoked. Major change. And for years, this was one of the biggest compliance drivers for federal contractors. But not everything has gone away. Two large pieces remain: Section 503 of the Rehabilitation Act and VEVRA. Section 503 requires contractors to take affirmative action in recruiting and advancing qualified individuals with disabilities. That stays in place. VEVRA, which stands for the Vietnam Era Veterans Readjustment Assistance Act. And despite the name, it applies to all protected veterans, disabled veterans, recently separated veterans, active duty wartime or campaign badge veterans, and armed forces service medal veterans. Uh, Contractors still need to make good faith efforts to recruit, hire, and promote these groups. And you still have to file annual VETS 4212 reports to demonstrate progress. And remember, you're still on the hook for Title VII, the Equal Pay Act, and EEO-1 reporting. So, for example, if you're posting for a job, yeah, you're posting a job for a program coordinator, instead of using language like "we strongly encourage women and minorities to apply," which that's, which would now could now raise concerns. You might emphasize your commitment to veterans and individuals with disabilities by linking your outreach partnerships. For instance, you might post on a veteran job board or partner with local agencies that support workers with disabilities. That shows good faith compliance with Section 503 and VEVRA while keeping your practices defensible. Now, I know you may question this, right? If we can't explicitly encourage women and people of color to apply anymore, what can we do? We can still create fair access and pathways that indirectly support women and people of color, but we have to do it in ways that are legally sound. Here are a few strategies. First, broaden your outreach. Instead of limiting postings to the big job boards, post with professional associations and community groups. For example, you might share a role on the Women in Nonprofit Leadership Forum or with the Hispanic HR Association, or your favorite Divine Nine organization. Shout out to Kappa Alpha Psi, Fraternity Incorporated. The key is that the job is open to everyone. You're not excluding anyone, but you're making sure underrepresented candidates actually see it. Second, focus on job-related qualifications. Move away from statements like, we strongly encourage women and minorities or people of color to apply. Uh, that kind of language is what puts you at risk now. Instead, emphasize skills, competencies, and mission alignment. For instance, you can say, we welcome applicants from a variety of backgrounds who bring diverse perspectives to our mission. That signals openness, but doesn't create a preference for a particular group. Third, look at professional development. Many nonprofits offer mentoring, leadership programs, or training. Make sure these are open to everyone, but structure them in a way that reduces barriers. For example, offering flexible scheduling means caregivers who are disproportionately women have an equal chance to participate. You're not singling anyone out, but you're creating access. Fourth, shift your language. Terms like affirmative action or even sometimes diversity can raise red flags now. Instead, use words like belonging, inclusion, fairness, respect, or equal access. For example, if you previously had a workshop called Women in Leadership, you could reframe it as inclusive leadership skills. The content can still help women thrive, but it's structured to be open to all employees. Finally, track results, not quotas. It's still completely legal to measure who's in your workforce and notice gaps. What you want to avoid is saying, we need X number of women or X number of people of color. Instead, set process-based goals. Things like, we will broaden our applicant pipeline by advertising in 5 new outlets this year. That's something you can measure and defend. So the bottom line is this: you can still create an environment where women and people of color benefit, but the framing has to shift. It's not about preference anymore. It's about access, inclusion, and opportunity that's available to everyone. Okay. So now that we know what's still required, let's talk about the areas where nonprofits are most likely to get in trouble. Uh, the first big risk is any practice that provides a benefit, preference, or exclusion based on race, sex, or any other protected characteristic. That could be something as simple as giving one group priority access to a program, or language in a job posting that signals preference for a specific demographic. These practices are the ones most likely to be challenged under this new framework. That brings us to the places you should pay the closest attention: job postings, training programs, employee resource groups, internships, scholarships. For job postings, the risk comes from the wording. Statements like, we strongly encourage women and people of color to apply, which used to be common, can now raise legal concern. Um, if you're offering training that's only for one demographic, like women in leadership or Latinx or Latina emerging leaders, you may need to reframe them so that they're open to everyone. Employee resource groups are important, but they, in this new framework, need to be inclusive. So Black networks, LGBTQ alliances are fine, but they need to be open to everyone, and with the thought that others may want to learn, support, or participate. So the risk here is um, when participation is restricted. So the days of a Black only space in the workplace for now are no longer allowed. Right? And finally, internships or scholarships. So anything target to one group. So exclusive opportunities based on protected characteristics could be flagged. So for example, let's say you had a posting for a Black student internship program designed to give early career exposure to Black students. Right? That title and framing could create compliance risk now, but you don't have to scrap it. Instead, you could reframe it as an equity and access internship program or a pathways internship program that's open to all students while doing targeted outreach at HBCUs or Latino serving institutions and community colleges and other like areas to make sure underrepresented candidates who still know about it. The difference is that the opportunity is technically open to everyone, but you're still reaching the audience you care about uh, through your outreach. And that's how you lower your legal risk without losing the impact. So here's where things get practical. We do not have to dismantle everything we've built, but we do need to evaluate, and in some cases, adjust how programs are structured. First, maintain. Many of your initiatives can continue as long as they're open to everyone. For example, if you have an employee resource group focused on women in leadership, don't restrict it to only women. Keep it open so anyone who wants to learn, support, or advocate can join. Uh, the group's purpose can still highlight women's experiences, but the membership should be inclusive. Second, reframe. This is especially true for training. A course that's branded LGBTQ plus inclusion in the workplace might could raise compliance questions, but if you broaden it to respect in the workplace or cultural competency for teams, the content can still remain the same. You're still covering topics like pronouns, inclusion, and respect, but the framing makes it legally safer because it applies to everyone. And again, watch out for job posting language. I know over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of investment in uh, focusing on particular candidates to apply for jobs, especially with pay equity concerns and um, right, pay equity concerns, and also um, the fact that women of color um, tend to not apply to a job if they don't have 100% of the qualifications, right? And so those texts are added to encourage um, people to apply. And so um, we want to still have those people apply, but we just have to use different language. Mhm. So, for example, we are looking for applicants with strong community engagement skills and a passion for serving diverse populations. That tells candidates you value different perspectives without signaling preference for a specific group. So the point is, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Don't throw out your programs. Just need to maintain them in an open format, reframe the language when necessary, and ensure everything ties back to skills, values, and mission rather than demographics. You got to play the game. Okay. So you'll see here some uh, foreign and now about job posting messages. So before it was okay to say we strongly encourage women and minorities to apply, or applicants from underrepresented groups will be given preference, right? We've seen that a lot in job postings. Uh, but today, please do not do that. Um, Now you can say we welcome applicants from all backgrounds who bring diverse perspectives to our mission, or we are committed to building a team with a wide range of skills, experiences, and viewpoints to better serve our community. Um, the language on the right under now is what's legally safe. So I would go with that. Okay. And then we have an example for training programs. So before, right, LGBTQ plus inclusion in the workforce training, we have women in leadership workshops, and now, go with respect in the workplace or inclusive leadership skills workshop. Doesn't have to be these things, but uh, something along those lines. So you can have a broader scope, but the intent can stay the same. Okay. Mm. Considering alternative frameworks, right? So one of the ways organizations are adapting right now is by shifting the frameworks they used to talk about in this work, right? Instead of using the traditional DEI language, some nonprofits and companies are moving toward frameworks like BEAM, which stands for Belonging, Equity, Accountability, and Merit. Um, I want to say this came from Sher. Um, do with the information with what you will, but again, offering an alternative. You do not have to go with this, but or the overall advantage with a different framework is that it'll raise fewer compliance concerns. And the goal is to resonate broadly and not single out protected groups. And so if you focus on belonging, equity, and accountability, I think you're okay. I know merit is a new thing too, but yeah, I think if you're going from DEI and you focus on belonging and equity and accountability, I think you'll be okay. But cautionary tale terminology alone isn't enough. So just swapping DEI for being doesn't make you fully compliant. Um, but again, think about what you're framing, who you're communicating to or about, and how it's applied. Again, the goal is survival, not advocacy. So, um, so for example, you could have a program called Inclusive Leadership under Beam, but if the actual program still excludes certain groups or gives preferences based on race or gender, it's still going to be a risk, right? So on the other hand, if the program is structured around uh, universal principles, things like accountability, respect, fairness, and skill development, then you're both safer legally and still promoting a positive workplace culture. Um, and you could think of alternative frameworks. Doesn't have to be Beam, it could be something else that you develop on your own. Um, but it needs to broaden intent um, and can be useful as long as the practices align with compliance. Okay. So now that we've reviewed the compliance landscape and alternative approaches, let's talk about what to do next. So the first step is to conduct an inventory of all DEI related initiatives and materials. This means gathering everything, policies, training modules, ERG charters, communications, and seeing how they align with compliance standards. Without a clear picture of what already exists, it's difficult to identify risk or gaps. And I'll give you an example. So, it's funny. My bio, my C-suite bio on our organization website, um, we tasked our communications team with looking through our documents, and uh, they reached out to me to say that, there was a lot of DEI focused um, experience that was in my bio, and I begrudgingly changed it or updated it. And so that was an example of, kind of uh, taking an inventory and looking through things. Now we didn't change everything, right? But we do have inventory of what could be flagged, and we made decisions on what will change versus what we won't. And so if you haven't already, then you'll need to do the same thing, right? And so um, your C-suite and your senior managers will have to be on the same page in terms of what hard decisions you'll make on um, the inventory you collect, but also the decision to make changes or not. Um, and so next, if you have employee resource groups, um, you'll need to take a look at the membership structure, the communication strategy, the funding. Um, ERGs are powerful tools for belonging and engagement, but they also need to be managed in a way that aligns with equal employment obligations. So, we talked about reviewing charters, and so in a charter would most likely have who's eligible to be a member, right? And so it should be everyone, right? But ideally and hopefully the people who were intended to be members would be the ones that join, but for the sake of compliance, they don't need to be uh, open to all and inclusive. And then finally, before making any substantive program changes, especially if your organization is tied to federal contracts or grants, it's critical to seek legal review. This step ensures that well-intentioned initiatives don't inadvertently create compliance issues. Um, and these steps are being about being proactive and being intentional, moving forward with DEI work, but doing it in a way that's both effective and sustainable for the next few years. And so, I'm gonna recap some takeaways. So first, nonprofit HR leaders. And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, it probably applies to HR leaders across the board. It's probably more at stake for nonprofit, but I think the overall premise is should resonate with all HR leaders. Um, but make sure that all policies, programs, and communications are aligned with the updated framework. Um, this is about protecting the organization, but it's also about protecting you and you want to continue to advance equity and inclusion in ways that are compliant and sustainable. Um, and then, the focus should remain on employment decisions and initiatives rooted in qualification skills and equitable access. And at the same time, we need to be mindful of minimizing practices that could be perceived as providing an unfair advantage to a specific protected group. And look, the big picture is this. Compliance and conclusion and inclusion can coexist by being intentional and thoughtful. Organizations can still advance belonging while reducing legal risk. And I can consider this to be one of those uh, things in the ever-changing HR landscape that we adapt to, we learn, and then we strive and thrive. And in advance from. And so um, we will live and we will learn, and hopefully things will get to the point where we can uh, be in a space that offers comfort and inclusion for all of us. And so, um, yeah. So I will take this time to ask any questions or answer any questions, and leave the floor up for discussion. Your opportunity to raise any scenarios or challenges that you're seeing. And second, it's always important to review compliance updates of your legal counsel. The law continues to evolve, and legal guidance ensures your organization is interpreting updates correctly. And make sure that you are monitoring federal and state developments. What you're seeing today is a part of a broader trend, and staying ahead of changes will keep your organization both compliant and prepared. And consider a different framework. Develop your own, see what's out there, and that'll help you balance equity and compliance in a way that aligns with your mission and your values. And with that, we can move on to Q&A.